Known as the first man to sail from Europe to India, Vasco da Gama was a Portuguese explorer who led the first successful voyage to India. He sailed from Lisbon in 1497 and was on a mission to find a sea route that would lead directly to India, bypassing the highly profitable trade routes controlled by Arab and Italian merchants. But it wasn't like you wanted to buy something online today and just search for it on Google. He had to go through a lot of challenges and obstacles to achieve his goal. So what exactly did Vasco da Gama do to discover India? And more importantly, why was his discovery so significant? Let's find out. Born around 1460, Vasco da Gama was a Portuguese explorer and nobleman who played an important role in establishing maritime trade routes to India. He was the third son of Estevão da Gama, a minor noble and commander of a fortress in southwestern Portugal. Although details of his early life remain scarce, da Gama's journey began to take shape when King John II commissioned him in 1492 to seize French ships due to tensions between France and Portugal. He executed his task effectively, which likely contributed to the king's confidence in him. In 1495, when King Manuel I took the throne, the political landscape at the Portuguese court shifted in favor of the da Gama family, reviving interest in sending a fleet to India to secure trade routes and challenge Muslim dominance in the region. Despite his limited experience in such matters, da Gama was chosen to lead this ambitious expedition. The first leg of Vasco da Gama's historic journey began on July 8, 1497, when he set sail from Lisbon with a fleet of 4 vessels. Among them were 2 sizable 3-masted ships, the São Gabriel and the São Rafael, each weighing around 120 tons, alongside a 50-ton caravel named the Barrio and a 200-ton store ship. To assist on this expedition, da Gama took along 3 interpreters, 2 fluent in Arabic and 1 who spoke several Bantu dialects. Now that was crucial because to get to India, da Gama had to go around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa and navigate a complex network of trade winds that carry ships across the Indian Ocean. For this purpose, he needed people who could communicate with local traders and help him acquire necessary supplies. The voyage commenced as they passed the Canary Islands on July 15th, reaching Santiago and the Cape Verde Islands by the 26th, where they stayed until August 3rd. Now, to sail safely through the difficult waters of the Gulf of Guinea, da Gama decided to take a longer route through the South Atlantic. He reached Santa Helena Bay in present-day Africa on November 7th. Unfortunately, the winds were against him, and it took him until November 22nd to successfully pass the Cape of Good Hope. Just 3 days later, he stopped at Mossel Bay. There, he built a stone pillar called a padrio on an island and took apart this store ship to make their load lighter. The crew continued their journey on December 8th and reached the coast of Natal on Christmas Day. On January 11, 1498, after stopping for a few days at a small river they named Rio do Cobre, they moved on. By January 25th, they got to the Calimani River in Mozambique, which they called the River of Good Omens. The long journey was tough, and many crew members became very sick with scurvy. Realizing they needed a rest, da Gama decided to take a month off to repair the ships and allow the crew to heal. On March 2nd, the fleet arrived at the island of Mozambique, where locals thought they were Muslims like them. Da Gama learned they traded with Arab merchants and met 4 ships loaded with riches. He was told a Christian leader, Prester John, lived inland. The Sultan gave da Gama pilots, but one left after finding out the Portuguese were Christian. They reached Mombasa and then Malindi in Kenya, where they found a pilot familiar with the route to India. After crossing the Indian Ocean in 23 days, they arrived in Calicut, India on May 20th. Although they were initially welcomed, relations soured due to da Gama's poor gifts and behavior. He couldn't make a treaty, partly because of Muslim merchants and his unsuitable trade items. Da Gama left in August, taking some Hindus to inform his king about their culture. Due to bad timing, he faced the monsoon. Many crew members died from scurvy on the return journey. On reaching Malindi, they burned one of their ships due to crew shortages. Da Gama set up markers along the way to mark his journey. By March, they rounded the Cape of Good Hope. A storm separated the ships, and only a few reached Portugal by July. Da Gama returned to Lisbon in September with only 55 of the original 170 crew members. Despite the hardships, he was honored by the king with a title and a pension. To capitalize on Vasco da Gama's remarkable achievements, King Manuel I sent another Portuguese navigator, Pedro Alvares Cabral, to Calicut with a fleet of 13 ships. The lucrative results of this expedition quickly led to the assembly of a third fleet in Lisbon. This fleet was entrusted to da Gama, who received the title of admiral in January 1502. Commanding 10 ships, supported by 2 flotillas of 5 ships each, da Gama set sail in February 1502. After stopping at the Cape Verde Islands, they reached the eastern African port of Sofala on June 14th, briefly visiting Mozambique before heading to Kilwa, Tanzania. Encountering unfriendly relations there, da Gama threatened to destroy Kilwa if its ruler, Amir Ibrahim, did not declare loyalty to King Manuel, which he ultimately did. Continuing his journey, da Gama made a stop at Goa, which later became a crucial base for Portuguese power in India, before moving on to Cananore, a location north of Calicut. There, he lay in ambush for Arab ships, and when one arrived, da Gama allegedly seized its cargo and killed the passengers, an act that has tainted his legacy with allegations of ruthlessness. However, accounts of this event were recorded long after the fact and may be exaggerated. After securing an alliance with the Cananore ruler, da Gama aimed to disrupt trade in Calicut and punish the Zamorin for his alliances with Muslim merchants. His fleet bombarded Calicut's port and captured hostages, leading to further violence. They then allied with the ruler of Cochin, who opposed the Zamorin before returning to Mozambique on February 20, 1503, and finally reaching the Tagus River on October 11th. This was the end of the second voyage, but it would not be the end of Vasco da Gama's legacy in India. This was the last chapter of Vasco da Gama's thrilling saga of exploration and adventure. Upon his return, Vasco da Gama found that the mood was quite different from what he had hoped for. King Manuel's welcome was not as grand or celebratory as he expected. Instead, there was a sense of uncertainty and mixed feelings surrounding his achievements. Despite his great accomplishments, da Gama felt like he had not been rewarded enough for all he had given up. He faced tensions with the Order of São Tiago over the Town of Signs, which he thought had been promised to him. However, the Order was unwilling to give it up, leading to a conflict between them. While facing all these challenges, da Gama found comfort in his marriage to Catarina de Attige, a woman from a noble family, whom he likely wed around the year 1500. The couple established their home in Évora, where they began a family and welcomed 6 sons. This personal aspect of his life supported him during the difficult times of his explorations and conflicts. For several years, da Gama remained a trusted advisor to the king on issues related to India, earning the title of Count of Vidigueira in 1519. His continued service would ultimately lead to another grand adventure, as he was appointed by King John III as Viceroy of India in 1524. When Vasco da Gama arrived in Goa, he had a big job ahead of him, fixing many problems that had happened while others were in charge. Sadly, just after he got there, he became very sick and died in Cochin in December. A few years later, in 1538, his body was brought back to Portugal, which marked the end of his amazing journey. So, this was everything Vasco da Gama did to discover the sea route to India and the challenges he faced along the way. Despite his controversial tactics, there is no denying that his voyages opened up a world of trade and exploration for Portugal and Europe. He will always be remembered as one of the bravest and most influential explorers in history. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, let us know in the comments if you want to see more videos on similar topics. You can also check out our previous videos. Goodbye until next time.